Well, welcome back to the Makeshift Studio. A lot of us have teams, committees, classes, small groups, whatever it is, that need to gather and meet. That's pretty straightforward if everyone's able to gather in person. It's also pretty straightforward if everyone is going to gather on Zoom. The challenge comes in is when you have some people that want to gather in person and some people who want to gather in Zoom. We have run into that for the last year here, and we've tried all sorts of things to make it work. We've invested in HD webcams that we put on screen, on TVs, on carts, Bluetooth speakerphones that you can try to put in the center of the room or move around. And they all kind of work, but none of them have worked well, to the point that we've actually gone to a practice where things are either all in person or all in Zoom. Because what happens if you've got, say, half the group in person and half the group on Zoom is the Zoom people sometimes feel left out. They don't know exactly what's going on. Oftentimes it's hard for them to hear the people in the room. Or depending on how the room is set up, it's really hard for them to tell who's talking if all you're getting is like a wide shot from a camera like this and say the people talking are at the other end of the space. And if your goal is especially to teach like a class where you're worried about having good conversation and discussion, and you want to facilitate that kind of good conversation and discussion, doing that hybrid approach where some people are in the room and some people are on Zoom or Google Meet or whatever can be a challenge. And it's definitely been a challenge for us. Until at a recent meeting that I was at, somebody brought out one of these. Now this is a meeting owl, and you can kind of see why it's called that. It does, at least a little bit, look like an owl. But what this is designed to do is to be the webcam for your meeting. Now, the difference is this webcam doesn't sit up by where your screen is. This webcam is actually designed to sit in the middle of the room. So if you lead your classes in a formation where maybe everybody's in like a U shape or everybody's sitting around something central and facing each other, this is actually designed to sit in the middle of it and provide not only the video but also the audio for your meeting. Now I'm going to show you an example of how it works in just a minute. But I want to go over just a couple of the specs on it so you know what it is that we're talking about. This, as far as your computer will see it, is nothing more than a webcam. It will show up just like this would, or the webcam that's on your laptop would. So that's how the computer is going to see it. It's also going to see it as a speaker and a microphone, all in one unit. Now, what differentiates this from, say, something like this is, first off, right here on the top. That is actually your camera. And you may be thinking, well, wait a minute, aren't we just seeing the ceiling? No, this is actually a 360-degree camera. It looks at the entire room, which I understand immediately might sound okay, but then might also sound problematic. Thankfully, it's more than that. When you're talking, when somebody's talking in the room, the owl is smart enough to pick that person out and then zoom in on them while they're talking. It also, because it has an array of microphones around it, can zero in on the microphone that is closest to the person talking, so you get really good quality audio and you get that kind of zoomed in look on whoever is speaking. If multiple people are speaking at the same time, it's actually smart enough to then divide it up and put kind of one person in one box and one person in the other. Frankly, it works pretty slick. So why don't I take a minute right now and show you an example in our main teaching space. Well, here we are in our main teaching space. This is where most of our small groups and classes and stuff meet. And this is actually being done now as a recorded Zoom meeting. So it's not going to be to the same quality as what happens in the studio, but this is actually being recorded on the Owl's camera and through the Owl's microphone. And I would say I'm probably about 6 feet away from it at this point. So you can see, because I'm the one talking, I'm the one centered in the frame, and there's that 360 degree view above my head. Now, because this only to your computer is only a webcam. If you want to change its settings on the owl, and there are settings to change, you actually do that through an app on your phone, which I want to show you real quick. Once you've opened up the app, you can select your owl, which you get to name. So if you want to name it something creative, you can. Obviously, we didn't do a very good job there. But once you're in there, you can go to the camera controls section, where you can do a couple of things. One is through camera lock and zoom, you can take full control of your owl, as I have just done. And you can see now I've got full control, and I can decide where it looks and who it looks at. So you can see, and there is the ability to kind of pan up, and you can pan down, and I'm not very good at this, as you can tell. I hope I'm not making you seasick. But you can take full control, and you can zoom in more if you want to. So if you're more teaching a class and you're presenting and you don't want it to be distracted by the things going on in the room, you can do that. The other thing you can do is you can kind of turn on and off the 360-degree pano. So you can have that on or off if you would like it to be. And then finally, you can set the ignore zone. So first we have to reset to auto. There we go. Now we've reset to automatic, which means the owl is back in control. And then we can go through and set our ignore zone, which you're seeing as the little white box. Where is it? Right there. You're seeing as the little white box in the 360 pano up there. And what this is going to do is it's going to set an area in the room where you don't want the owl to focus, even if that's where the action is. And obviously the thing we don't want it to focus on is the TV, because we don't need those folks seeing themselves. But you can change where you just slide the little thing around. You can change where that ignore zone is. And typically, again, it's going to be where the TV is. Now, like I said, the beauty of this product is that the 360 camera is smart enough to move with you. So let's try that. So obviously I've been the one talking, so it's zoomed in on me, but if I get up and I move over here to the point that now I'm the one talking, you can see it left, I split the screen. So it left the previous person, obviously who's no longer there, in the shot, in understanding, I would assume, because if anybody's going to talk again, it's probably going to be them, but then included me. And if I keep going and keep talking longer, and the old me doesn't talk, eventually I will grow and just take up the entire frame. But so now you can see I'm the one talking, so it zooms in on me. But if now somebody else starts talking in a completely different part of the room, like this, and now I'm the one that starts talking over here, you can see it does actually a pretty quick change and brings me into the shot so that everyone else can see who the one speaking is. In our testing, it works really well if you have a couple of people who are maybe having a conversation back and forth. Both can usually be very clearly heard. And of course, they'll each remain in their own individual box while they are doing it. So I'm going to turn back now to my original starting place. Here I am over here now, and it will take probably just a second. There it is. Oh, we got the rare 3 box. And I do think 3 is the most, at least the most that I have seen. So I want to talk a little about the space that we're in. As you can see, we kind of have it constructed in a U shape with the TV on one end. The owl is situated right in the middle. It's about 6 feet away from any participants. I believe the manufacturer says you can go up to 18 feet. We haven't tested it quite that far, but given the high quality we're getting out of this, I wouldn't be surprised to me if you could do that. We have a fairly inexpensive computer hooked up with a pretty cheap keyboard and touchpad combo that is wireless that I can have in front of me, so I can run the Zoom meeting in all the ways that you would run a Zoom meeting if I wanted to share a presentation or whatever. One other feature in the app is what's known as presenter mode, which will make the Especially if your attendant is moving around the room while they talk. So say you're in a space right here, but instead of me sitting down, maybe there's a whiteboard behind me and I'm moving back and forth and talking on the whiteboard. Presenter view just lets the owl know that that's happening, and the owl will do a better job zooming in on the person as they speak. So that is the owl in its natural habitat. But let's right now go back to the studio. So I'm sure you'll agree with me, that's pretty impressive. And pretty much everything about the owl is really impressive. Except maybe one thing, and that's the price. So currently, as I'm recording this video, these are available for just a shade under $1,000. And that may seem like a lot for something that is essentially a webcam as far as your computer sees it. But the reality is there's a whole lot more going on here. Because this is just a webcam to your computer, you don't need much of a computer to run it. In fact, the one that I ran that demo off of and that we run it off of was just a small, all-in-one PC that we spent only a few $100s on. You could use an older laptop for that purpose if you wanted to. And in fact, you could probably get away with like one of those like gumstick style computers that just plugs right into your HDMI. Because really all the computer itself is doing is running Zoom or Google Meet or whatever. All of the intelligence, all of the smarts that lets this thing do its facial recognition, does that split screen, does the 360 view, all of that is actually baked into the owl itself. There is essentially another computer inside the owl, which is why it costs what it costs. Yes, the optics cost something, the good speaker costs something, the good mics cost something, but a large amount of the cost is the cost of the computer and all the intelligence that's baked into this, which allows you to then use any old kind of basic computer you may have around on the other end. Now, they do offer a couple of accessories to this, which I have not tried. One is a whiteboard camera, where it will actually, allow you to superimpose the image of somebody at a whiteboard alongside of it. And then there also is an optional base station that this kind of snaps into. And that base station replaces the computer that you're going to need and will log into your Zoom meetings and your Google Meets and all that stuff for you. And all you got to do then is attach it to a television so that people can see what's going on. The problem with those two products is, one, they're kind of expensive. The base station, I think, is like $1,700, so that's quite a lot. And two, both of them, including the whiteboard camera, for some reason I honestly don't understand, require a subscription as well. As of recording this video, the owl itself does not require a subscription. It's just the upfront fee. So once you own it, it's yours. So I don't know that I could recommend the other two things, especially when you can get a pretty basic computer to plug it into for very little money, along with one of those basic USB keyboard and touchpad all-in-ones like we use. That's a that's where I would start. And then if logging into Zoom on the PC is a challenge for folks or whatever, you may want that touchscreen base station they sell with it that is definitely simpler and easy to use. Not sure it's worth the $1,700 price point and the ongoing subscription. So should you buy an owl? Well, I guess it kind of depends on your use cases. But in our recent book study that we had here, we were able to gather people, half of them online and half of them in person. The half that online had people that were coming in from 3 different states, actually. And so our ability to extend our reach and reach more people and offer everybody a quality experience, to me, that's worth it right there. I mean, the level of accessibility that you can offer for meetings and classes and studies and stuff like that increases dramatically. And whether it's, concerns over COVID, or whether it's concerns over driving at night for some of your older members, or for some of your younger members, maybe, or people involved in your organization, maybe they don't want to come out at night. Maybe after they get the kids to bed, they just rather be home and they would rather join in a meeting remotely, but not everybody else, but there are those who want to be there in person. The ability to offer both in a hybrid mode that actually works is a huge benefit in my book. And I have tried hybrid classes in a bunch of different ways, including thousands of $5,000 smart boards and things like that, and we frankly have never been able to make it work as easily and cleanly as we have with the Owl. So if you have any interest in expanding the accessibility of your meetings and classes to include people on Zoom and in person, and you've got a good setup in a room where you can kind of either put people in that U shape, or put people all around something, I think this is a great product. So if you're interested in doing it and you're going to spend a few $100s anyway on things like webcams and Bluetooth speakerphones, you may want to consider finding those extra few $100s and just go ahead and get the right solution, which in my book right now would be the Meeting Owl. All right, well, I hope you found this useful. Thank you for joining me.